Hi, Phanessa here. In this video, I am going to demonstrate how to knit this chunky cat hat. This is an old pattern that I am updating, so I wanted to record a video tutorial for it. Okay, so for the materials, I'm using a 16-inch circular needle. This is US 15. It's a 10 millimeter. And for the yarn, I'm using super bulky weight yarn. This is Hobby's yarn. So you'll need stitch marker, and this one here I made by myself. I'll link a DIY video if you're interested in making some for yourself. Okay, so you'll need a tape measure, tapestry needle, and a pair of scissors. Also grab some stitch markers. If you want to work the 3 needle bind off, grab another needle that's also 10 millimeters. Or you can use a crochet hook, whatever you're comfortable with. I will show you the different ways that you can close the hat. All right, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start with casting on 42 stitches plus 1. So this pattern is in multiples of 3 plus 1. And I'm just working a long tail cast on. If you need a slower video tutorial, I'll link that in the corner as well, but I'm just going to go ahead and cast on 42 stitches. Okay, so I have 42, and I'm going to add that extra one right now. So that is going to be dropped when we join with the invisible joining method. So your total stitches will be 42, and that's for an adult size. If you're adjusting, just make sure you have multiples of 3 and then plus that extra one for joining. If you would like the pattern, it is linked below in the description box. Okay, so once you have the number of stitches you need, make sure it's not twisted. We're going to now join. So this is what twisted looks like. So if it's twisted, your hat is going to be all weird. So make sure it's not twisted. And we're going to use the invisible joining method. So push your stitches all the way to the left. Okay, so right here, you want to slip as if to purl and bring it to this side. This one here, you're going to pick up and pass it over the one you just slipped over and drop it. So that's the additional stitch that we casted on, just so that we can join our round. Grab your stitch marker, place it on your needle, and now we're going to start round 1. So you're going to knit the first 2 stitches. Okay, that's 1. And 2, and then you're going to purl the next stitch. Make sure your yarn is in the front. Okay, now you're going to just repeat that. You're going to knit 2 and purl 1. So I'm knitting continental style. Some traditional English knitters get very lost in the way I knit, so let me show you what that looks like traditional style. So again, you're going to knit 2, so there's 1 and 2. Bring your yarn forward and purl the next stitch. So you're going to repeat this all the way around. Okay, yarn in the back, knit 2, 1, 2, and then bring your yarn forward and purl 1. Okay, so I'm going to work those stitches all the way around. Okay, so I'm at the end of the round. I'm finishing up my last couple of stitches. Okay, purl my last. Now you're going to move your stitch marker and you are on your second round. So all you're doing is repeating the last round until about an inch past the top of your head. So that'll give you room to close it up and make the cat ears. For the beginners, if you get lost and you're not sure which stitch is which, just look at the individual stitches. So right here, this part right here, that's the purl bump. We call it a purl bump. So these two here are the knit stitches. You can see the V stitches right below. Those are the knit stitches right here where you have a strand of yarn wrapped around your stitches. That is your purl bump. So that's your purl stitches. So those are the things to look out for if you are having trouble remembering or finding out which one is a purl stitch or which one is a knit stitch. Okay, so I am almost done with this round. After this, I'm going to measure to see if I'm happy with the length. I want this about 10 inches, 9 3/4 to 10 inches. So I'm going to lay it down, grab my tape measure, and I'm going to measure the length from the bottom of the needles down to the cast on. It's about 10 inches, so I'm happy with that. So you have two options to close this out. You can cast off all the way around and then sew it with a tapestry needle. So to bind off, you're going to knit 2, so 1 and 2. Then you're going to take the first knitted stitch and pass it over the just knitted stitch. We're going to do this in pattern. So the next stitch is a purl stitch. You're going to purl the next stitch. Then you're going to pass this stitch over the just purled stitch. And you're going to repeat that all the way around until you've casted off everything. You can see here they are off the needles. And then just cast off around and work the seam on the inside. Okay, so now we're going to work the 3 needle bind offs, and to do that you want to turn your hat inside out. We're going to divide the stitches in half. I have 42, so I want to make sure that I have 21 on each side. So grab your double pointed needle and your crochet hook if you have that out. So align your stitches together with the tips of your needles pointing in the same direction. So with your needle, insert it through the loop on the front needle, insert it through the loop on the back needle, and you're inserting as if to knit. And then you want to knit through both of these loops. So pull it through both loops and slide the stitch off the needles. And then you're going to knit another stitch. So into the front one, through the back one, as if to knit, and then knit those 2 stitches. Whoops. Then knit those 2 stitches and slide it off. Now you're going to grab this first one and pass it over the just knitted stitch. So this is just like binding off, except you're going through 2 loops and you're basically sewing it at the same time. So through the front and back, as if to knit, and then knit the stitch, pull it through, and then slide it off. Okay, now pass this stitch here over the just knitted stitch. So you'll continue in that manner to the end. If you have an extra stitch, then just go ahead and knit that last stitch. Okay, let me show you an easier way to do this with a crochet hook. So grab your crochet hook. I couldn't find my 10mm, so I have my 9mm here. So you want to insert that in the loop, and you're going to stick your hook into the loops as if it was a needle. So through the front loop on the first needle, the next loop in the back. I'm going to move this. Then you're going to yarn over by wrapping it around your hook and pulling through those 2 loops and then through the loop on your hook. Okay, so now let's do that again. In through the first loop, through the second, yarn over, pull it through those 2 loops. Now if you were knitting, you would pass this stitch over the just knitted stitch. But with the crochet hook, you just pull it right through. Okay, through the next set of stitches, yarn over, pull through and through. So it's sort of in one swoop, and it's so much easier. Anyway, it's really up to you, personal preference. So go ahead and do that all the way across. Okay, so these are my last stitches. I'm going to go ahead and yarn over and pull through all of these loops. Now I'm done working across. Again, if you have one stitch left, just go ahead and knit or crochet that last stitch. Okay, so cutting my tail here, and I'm just going to pull it through the loop. If you're going to sew the ears down, you want to leave your tail, so you can use this one for this side. I'm just going to weave this tail in just a little bit, and then we'll get back to it later to show you how to sew the base of the ears. Okay, so now you can turn your hat right side out, and I'm going to show you what the top looks like with the 3 needle bind off. The only thing with the 3 needle bind off is it does give you a thicker seam. If you don't like that, then I recommend just using a tapestry needle to sew the top. So in this photo here, my son was wearing it without the base of the ears sewn. So if you wanted to sew it, it would be sewn diagonally with your tapestry needle. So like that and like that. Again, it's all personal preference. So if you don't sew the base of the ears, you can go ahead and weave in all of your ends. I'm just going to weave the beginning tail here. Okay, so you're done if you don't want to sew the ears. So in the next step, we will go ahead and sew the base of the ears. Okay, so grab a stitch marker and mark where you want to sew it. I counted about 8 stitches down, and then I'm going to mark it right there, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm going to count, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay, 8, and then mark it. Okay, so now, so I pulled this from the inside earlier. That was the tail that I left alone. I just pulled it through to the outside. Okay, so I'm going to weave this through diagonally. I want to try to avoid the knit stitches. So I'm going through a purl stitch right now. When you come back the other side, you want to make sure that either you come out between the 2 knit stitches, so avoid going through here. Go directly below, in between the knit stitches, so that you don't cross over the knit stitches. So coming back out this side, I'm in between those 2 knit stitches. Going back out the other direction, I'm going through the purl stitches. These are knit, and right here is the purl. So I'm going to go directly 1 row down and through to the other side. I'm going to make sure that I don't come out of the knit stitches. So I'm coming out the purl stitches, and then I'm just going to go 1 row below or above. It's really up to you. You're just trying to get across to the other stitch marker. So when I come back out this way, it's between the 2 knit stitches, and then I'm just going to go 1 row below, back out the other side, avoiding going through the knit stitches. Okay, so I'm getting close to being done here. I'm just going to weave 1 more through. Let's see, let's go through the top here and out the other side, making sure again that I don't cross the knit stitches. Okay, so you can see that the knit stitches don't look like there's a strand crossing it. That's because we avoided those knit stitches when we seamed down to the other side. Now for additional security, I like to work a seam on the inside as well. So I'm just going to poke this through here. Okay, so now I'm just going to poke it through to the inside. Let me take this off. Okay, so I'm going to insert my needle right through and then flip this inside out. Okay, so this right here is the back side of where I sewed the ears. I'm just going to run my needle just through the loops and stitches near the base so that I can secure it even more. It's hard to tell where I seamed, so I'm just folding it and making that line and then just going back and forth across it. Then I'm just going to secure it. Okay, so now I'm going to repeat that for the other side. So right here is where I started on the other side. It's the purl stitch. So I'm going to insert the yarn through from the inside, but before I do that I want to secure it first, and then I'll go ahead and pull it through to the other side and start stitching. Okay, now I'm just going to poke it right through to the outside or to the right side, and I'm going to start from here. Okay, so again, I want to go back and forth, avoiding the knit stitches, making sure that I don't run the yarn across it because that doesn't look good. Going straight down to the next row through the other side. Oops, that's right through the knit, so you don't want to do that. So this is the purl side or the purl stitch. I'm just going to go back and forth just like I did on the other side, and I'm going to go across diagonally to the other stitch marker. Okay, so before you secure it, make sure that you're happy with the way it looks and it matches the other side. Okay, so then I'm going to do the same thing by securing it on the inside, just by weaving it back and forth at the base of this ear. Okay, now we're all done. I'm going to cut my tail. I've already secured it, and I'm going to turn it right side out. Okay, so this is pretty much it. Okay, so if you wanted larger ears, you can always continue to knit higher and then sew the ears lower, and then that'll give you larger ears and it'll still fit. All right, that is it. So in this photo, he's wearing the hat with the ears sewn. I really can't tell the difference. So this is an old pattern, like I said. I'm going to be revising the crochet version, and I'll be creating a video for that as well. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification button so that you will be notified when I post that video. All right, thank you so much. Again, please don't forget to subscribe. I will see you next time.